Okay, this is Jim Smith at GannAnalysis.net. That's James Smith at GannAnalysis.net or the website GannAnalysis.net. Today I'm talking about gold futures. We're looking at the monthly time frame, and from this low to this high establishes the swing off which we project this square of the range. Now, I've shown you this chart before on YouTube, and I just want to remind you that it does appear to be working. Last time I showed you, it was testing this line here. It's now above it. So that indicates a likely move to new highs. Now, granted, this is not updated for today's price action. Gold is sold off about 1%. It's trading down around 1710 or whatever. And so maybe you have to consider the fact that, hey, this breakout might be a false breakout. Maybe you fall back here a little bit. But if you find support at 1717, maybe you just keep going. And so I think it's probably the start of a move up, but we'll have to see. Don't be surprised. There are a lot of false moves in a rally like this where, it looks like you're moving up and then suddenly you're back at 1613. That could happen. But all I'm saying is it showed resistance here on this line the two prior months. We're in April now, so this would be March and February. So that line is working pretty well. The fact that you're above it, it's just like a trend line. The idea is that you break out above this one by one. It's important. And if you manage to find support here and then start to creep higher, yeah, maybe you're going back to retest this high at 1923.7, the old September 2011 high, and quite possibly you'll go to new highs. I think you probably will, because you can see this thing is catching a lot of turns all the way. The circles indicate where we get hits, and we've found the rhythm of the market, if you will. The time and price are in balance when you get to these divisions. And the idea that we constantly hear via WD Gann is that the market will change trend when it's in balance, both in time and price. It's really the geometry of the market. So halfway through the square in time is a natural place to look for a change in trend. We sold off into it. That gave us a rally. 3/4 of the distance in time through the square is a natural place to look for a change in trend, and you're 50% of the square in price. So 50% in price, 3/4 in time, that's a natural place to look for a change in trend, and sure enough, gold took off at that point. So the other thing you might want to remember, if you look at this, January 2022, that's the completion of the square. The last time I talked about gold, I mentioned you want to circle that on your calendar because it's an important date. So keep in mind, if you haven't seen that prior YouTube video, you go back and review it. But anyway, January 2022 is a date to remember. It's also important because if you take a larger swing, starting with the September 1999 low, to the high here in September 2011, 144 months, 12 years. For you followers of Gann, you know the importance of 144. Probably the most important cycle for Gann. 12 years, it's very biblical. 12 tribes of Israel, etc. It's a number that Gann emphasized over and over and over. It's a cycle of completion, if you will, from low to high in 144 months. And a lot of markets will actually go down from high to low in 144 months. So what happened thereafter? Well, it looks like we sold off into the midpoint in the square, 84 months down. That's 7 years. Now, if you did that, then you'd have to look at the 3/4 division, which is half of that, 42 months, as a possible change. Now, interestingly enough, 42 months, the reason I have the cursor right here, it's 1666, and if you notice here, 1666, when you look at this rally, it rallied 1,666 points from low to high. It's not impossible that you could rally 1,666 points from this low back here to this high. It's possible. Well, actually, it's from this low here to this high. So if you see that happen, you get to 28.45, then you should be looking for a possible top if it gets there in sync with the 3/4 division in time. So think of it this way. It's not a forecast. All we're really saying is that this is where time and price will be in balance. Potentially, if you run up into it, you get to this price by this time, then maybe that's a top. And maybe you sell off a little bit, maybe you go even higher. Maybe you go all the way up into the completion of the square, August 2025, completing the square in time, maybe also double the square in price. So if you think of this square, again, it's 1666, you double that distance, it takes you to 3586. Now, if you got there by August 2025, and you're at 3586 by that time, that might be a top. Now, again, this is not a forecast. I'm not saying that's going to happen. I'm just telling you where time and price are in balance. And if you think about it logically, that's what Gann is all about. Time and price. Where are they in balance? Where do we see an inflection point? And why do we have an inflection point? Because time and price are in balance. And that could be any number of points. It could be here, it could be here, it could be here. Why here? Because it's 144 months up from this low. Remember, from this low to this high, 144 months. And we started the rally in December 2015. 144 months later, December 2027 is a possible top. Could it get all the way up here by that time frame? Yes, it's possible. 3586, if it got to 3586 by December 2027, that would be another possible inflection point, a change in trend. Again, here, or here, we don't know. We absolutely don't know. But we do know that we'll be watching. When we watch this market, if it rallies into these nodes, into these inflection points, then we'll pay close attention to see if that's really a top. I have no question we're probably going to new highs. My only question now is, how high will you go? Will you go to 27.54? Or will you go to 35.86 or even higher? We don't know. We do know that we'll be looking at time and price all the way along. We're using a scale of 10 points per month. And that's the same scale we used on the prior chart. If you remember, 10 points per month. We're doing the same scale. Nothing has changed. The only thing has changed, instead of using this as the starting point, October 2008, here we're using a starting point of September 1999. And we got that great 144-month cycle. Now, you might find this hard to believe, but when this happened back in September of 2011, I actually told clients that was a high. So in real time, I was telling them, not beforehand. I saw it rally into it, and it's only when it's happening that you have confidence to say, hey, this thing is really excessively overbought. We're completing 144 months, low to high. That's a good time to be looking for a top. And like I said, if we get down here from December 2015, we rally 144 months to 35.86, and we do a similar sort of parabolic move up, hey, maybe that's a top. But again, we don't know. Let me bring this in. Let's suppose, let's see here. If we want to expand this, make it a little bit higher. Okay, we have 3 boxes up instead of 2. So this is the square, and let's say we want to make it 3 instead of 2. That would make it somewhere around 52.50. I mean, could that really happen? Who knows? I think what the point is, Gann is not about offering opinion. You see this all the time, these wise men from Wall Street telling you, oh, gold is going to 5,000, it's going to 10,000. What do they have to back up their view? Absolutely nothing, just their opinion. It really doesn't matter. My opinion doesn't matter, your opinion doesn't matter. What matters is science, the geometry of the market. So I'll bet you dollars to donuts, they're not saying 27.54. And I'll bet you they're not calling this number out here or this number here, 50. It's an odd number. I don't know, it's exactly 52.66, somewhere up there. I didn't do the exact math on that one, but 27.54 or 5,200, somewhere up there. I'm not quoting these numbers out of the blue. I'm actually just expanding this square up and out. So every time you have an inflection point, you complete a second square in time or a third square in price, that's where you need to look for a possible change in trend. So 35.86, 27.54. If you get to one of these levels as you're completing the square in time, that would be really good. That's what we like to see. So these are just a couple ideas for you to consider as we break to new highs in gold. And there's victory has 1,000 followers, defeat not so many. I'm saying as soon as this thing pops to new highs, you will see all kinds of talking heads on Wall Street telling you that they predicted it. Well, maybe they did, maybe they didn't, but they didn't give you the exact level. They're not telling you anything useful. I'm telling you a number that's based on the geometry of time and price. It's called Gann analysis. And that's the difference between opinion and science. Geometry is a science. And if someone tells you you can't time the market, well, in a way that's true, because any one of these numbers could give us the high, and the price could come in any number. It could be the completion of the square, or it could be halfway through the second square. The rally that we see coming is going to be a multi-year bull market, but we don't actually know in advance how long it's going to last. We do know that there are certain time frames that we're going to pay attention to. August 2025 is going to be very important. You're completing the square in time. So if we go back, you see it a little bit better. August 2025, that's the completion of this square in time. January 2022, that's 3/4 of the distance through the square in time. Now go to your calendar and circle those dates. Just circle, I don't know if you have a calendar, it goes out that far, but anyway, maybe you could do it on your computer. Just remind yourself in January 2022, watch gold. In August 2025, watch gold. If you do that, you will be amazed. There will be an inflection. It doesn't guarantee it'll be a high. It could be a higher low, but it will be some sort of turn in January 2022, some sort of turn in August 2025. And for people who say that you can't time the market, I defy you to be objective. Actually, withhold judgment and check this out. When you get to the January 2022, tell me that there isn't some sort of inflection point for gold at that time, because it worked here, it worked here. It is going to work here. There will be an inflection point. I'm not saying it'll be a high, but it could be a higher low. It'll be some sort of turn in January 2022, because the geometry of time and price dictate that it will be a turn. And most likely in August 2025, as you complete the square, that's going to be an even bigger turn. So a lot of things that I've gone over here very quickly. I just wanted to give you the flavor of how Gann works. Time and price. When they're in balance, you get a change in trend. That's what it's all about.